lost to be found. My hope is that you find that awareness you're looking for. I could only share with you what helped me. I chose therapy first, took classes and learned from others who have been there, done that, survived it, and are successful. I knew that the thing I've been through, those circumstances, did not define me. I had the opportunity to shape my own life. I became aware by learning history of the world, my country, my community, and my family's history, so I could help myself now and make a difference for my children and the hope for the future generation. I sought knowledge and understanding, and I gained wisdom. I chose to talk about coming from a place where I was unaware of my surroundings, myself, my wants, and my needs, to wanting to share my story when the title was Dying Slowly, and then I changed it to Prune, and now I could present a piece here today to you called Working to Live. I was asked, what is the most important thing I have come to understand through therapy? I thought of the pain. I said understanding where the pain comes from. That awareness has been worth the journey. I can remember starting therapy and my answer to questions were, I don't know. I don't know. I remember saying that over and over again. My therapist didn't tell me that it was because I was so unaware why I didn't know. They just kept asking, which allowed me to keep thinking. Then I started wanting to know the answer to the questions. I remember always knowing that education was a key part of helping myself. I am glad to be here today at Housatonic Community College. I earned my associate's here. It took me 10 years. But someone told me that no one would ever ask how long it took you. And this is true. People just want to know if you could get the work done. Intellectual education is good, but emotional education I found to be just as important. An example is, I love math. It's always been my strongest subject, and I remember sitting in an algebra class that I was acing as usual. And this day we were taking a test. I couldn't get one problem to come out correctly. You see, something had been bothering me all day, and I decided that I was going to keep it in, don't cry, and be strong. I was so wrong. It affected my ability to do what came so easy to me and that I love doing. Starting therapy was the best thing I ever did for my children and myself. It wasn't easy. There was the overprotective behavior, the physically being there and emotionally absent, the eating disorders, the abandonment issues, the commitment issues, the fears, the anxieties, the codependencies, taking care of them and protecting them so that they don't get hurt like I did, but not separating their emotions enough from mine and then not being there emotionally when they needed me all the time. The dissociating, the anger, the loss, the low level of awareness, it has been rather difficult to understand what better is and fight to grasp it. It would have been much easier to accept what was expected and go along with it. I remember writing in my poetry that hopefully this would help my children seek help for themselves if they ever need it. I knew life wasn't perfect, or nothing is perfect, but I somehow knew being stuck and doing nothing to help myself was far worse. How did I know? Sometimes just that desire for better leads you to find a better way. Loving my children as much as I did, but feeling totally uncomfortable with how I felt about being a mother and a person made me seek help back then. I was 23 and my daughter had started private school, and now I didn't just see the better life on television, I saw it up close and personal. She started private school, unfortunately because of the fear I had of public schools. I came from Jamaica and I was just ridiculed all the time in school, my color, my speech. I mean, I was just being taught to hate myself. By the time I became a mother, I was just dying slowly instead of living. How could I teach children to live in this world when I wasn't even living in it? I remember sitting at my first pool party at Gengati's, who lives in an historical home in Westport, and my comments back in 1990 with all I knew was, Debbie, you look like Meredith Baxter Birney. Elizabeth, you look like Bette Midler. And then there was this lady who looks like the lady that plays Tracy Quartermain on General Hospital. She wasn't in our classroom, so I didn't get to know her, so every time I saw her, it was like new again. And for years, I asked the lady the same question. Do you play Tracy Quartermain on General Hospital? And she told me each time, no. I remember at the pool party as we sat on the blanket in the sun and Liz O'Neill held my little black boy in her lap and comforted him. And I watched Olivia Weeks, who was so young and had so many babies and was enjoying them and using cloth diapers, nappies like we used in Jamaica. It was okay to have your babies. People made me feel guilty in my community for having your kids. But I knew somehow then people were more connected than ever. However, when Carol mentioned that she had a relative that lived in some kind of castle or government palace in a foreign country, and how when she visited, if he offers her his room and she didn't accept it, it would be insulting, although there would be a chance that there could be an assassination attempt during the night. It was like a story from a movie or a novel for me. I wanted to say something interesting, so I mentioned that I saw something or the other on Oprah. Hey, that's what I knew. I wasn't even embarrassed. I've always been myself. I've always been learning. And when I learned, I wanted to teach. I am now quoting Oprah more, and so is the rest of the world, so nothing wrong with being yourself. However, I knew that education, and if I continued to do therapy and get better, I would somehow have that peace I felt sitting there in the sun at the Ngati's for the last kindergarten pool party of the year. I had that peace before. It was just lost. I remembered rolling down the hills of Jamaica, walking barefoot on the hot pavement from school, walking barefoot in the cool stream water, catching little fishes, walking quietly behind softly and catching butterflies. I knew the feeling. Once in a while playing with my children on the playground at that private school or at Seaside Park in the grass or the sun shining or something, I would get an hallucination of a smell of I couldn't place. It came with that great feeling and I would stand still and get lost in it, trying to figure it out. I also knew that peace didn't come from things. It was just my observation. I had been born into this world barely speaking, just mostly observing. Having things was not what made all the people and children happy in that sun at the poolside that day. Why? Because I was happy and had none of the things they had. My grandmother had taught me that fences make good neighbors, so I wasn't jealous. Jealousy was never the feeling that pushed me. I came from Jamaica where our little board house seemed like the biggest house in the world, and we didn't visit the neighbor to the left or the right. The only time we saw the bed was at bedtime, and our outdoors was really where we lived, so big, our whole yard, our veranda, the orange grove behind our house. However, the more I was invited to those beautiful homes, I did become aware that I was dying slowly and locked in the house with my kids watching television just wasn't cutting it for me. Seeking therapy helped me to figure out how to stop dying slowly, and I started asking questions. Why am I dying slowly? I remember taking an English class. We read a poem called Work of Artifice by Marge Piercy. It spoke of a bonsai tree, and it said, if the gardener wasn't pruning the tree and saying how cute you are, little tree, it could have grown 80 feet tall on top of a mountain. It became clear to me, I am dying slowly because I was pruned. That is what the emotional, physical, and sexual abuse did to that little girl, pruned her. So I changed the title of my story from Dying Slowly to Pruned. I saw that I could stop blaming myself, but I also realized that I had become my own gardener. I had to continue with therapy so I could grow. I wanted to be the tree on the mountaintop and not the bonsai. I didn't know how, it was just a feeling that I needed to become real. I also learned in therapy that I have the capabilities of making situations real. My feelings of helplessness became real most of the times when I did things like not paying my bills, procrastinating, and let my feelings of helplessness overcome me. However, I do want to mention that I am aware of the economy now, and I am very lucky that I am not alone in this world. I also realized that I could also feel empowered and create situations around me that could cause me to become literally empowered. I remembered my first therapist saying to me, Kareem, it's not the paid bills that keep you in control, but the paying of the bills. Life is continuous, he was saying, and I am aware of that now. I understand that free will doesn't mean to do anything I want, but to be conscious of others. I got to understand empathy. I am still myself, still sensitive, but I have learned positive ways to live. I have learned positive instead of negative words to describe myself. I learned to erase the old tapes, and if once in a while they play, I know how to erase them again and make new memories for myself. I learned to work, live, and love. I understand the grace and blessings in my life. I know what peace is, and I know how easy it is to lose it. And even if once in a while peace, grace, and quiet means laying on the couch for that day to take care of myself, then I just do that. And when tomorrow comes, I thank God for the new day, brush myself off, and keep moving. Again, I just want to thank everyone that has been involved in my recovery journey, every agency that I've had the privilege to work with, Greater Bridgeport Community, the Mental Health Center, Southwest Community Mental Health System, DMIS, BRS, Kennedy Center, Goodwill Industry, even DCF called on me once. Greens Farms Academy. I mean, seriously, I was a teenage mother on welfare with my vision in my head, and I wrote a grammatically flawed essay of my hopes for my child, and they saw me, even though I wasn't aware of myself. I want to thank every hospitalization, every Christmas gift, every social, every employment luncheon, every class, DBT pathways to recovery, peer mentoring training, rapid therapy, every therapy meeting, my children for their patience. I'm glad I was aware of a little of my grandma's teaching, like giving up your comfy bed and sleeping on the floor if you have to for a guest. Even though you heard extended family members calling mommy crazy. Yeah. My community, when you see the crazy lady, or we say it in Jamaica, the maduman, or the madman, you walk across the street, you point them out to your children, you cast them out and cross them off the list of society. But through therapy, I have learned that I am the mad woman. So now I have empathy for this mad woman, because I know we have dreams and aspirations, love and kindness, and could even achieve empathy for others and awareness. I visited some wonderful people that I grew up knowing. They were always so family-oriented. I liked that feeling. It was lost to me. I was looking for it, so I got it from them. But I couldn't help feeling like an outsider. I didn't think as quickly as they did or laugh and talk as much as they did. But I did observe them. During my journey, when I became aware that they were not my family and what I was needed for my children and myself, I had the ability to create it, so I separated from them. Recently, I went back to join them, which was an amazing day. I was myself. I talked when I wanted, I stayed quiet when I wanted. My therapist, Melissa, had told me that quiet moments are filled with angels. I am not afraid of the quiet anymore. My therapist, Gabby, gave me positive words to replace the negative words that I was taught to describe myself. I learned to be direct instead of indirect. I was myself and comfortable with my old friends. Then one of the little girls, who is a distant cousin to my son's, said to me, "Are you the lady with the son in college?" It sounds quite simple, but she could have been walking across the street with her mother pointing at me saying, "That's the mud woman." I wouldn't change one thing about my journey. Thank you, and please enjoy my new desire, working to live.